I like to let go up to over 100. There we go. Welcome everybody. This is the final event of day one of the Locked Up Festival. This is the Am I the Arsehole panel. But before that, Steve's going to give us a quick update on what's going on that you can do around the festival.
Yes, as you know, all these authors, and we're going to introduce our esteemed panel for this evening, but all the authors are doing this for free, folks. This is for charity to raise money for the Trussell Trust, who support 2/3 of the food banks in the UK. And these fabulous authors all have books, they all write for a living, and we need to sell books as well. Now, to help you along, Waterstones have partnered with us. And if you go to their Locked Up Festival page, which you can find either on their events drop down, or if you Google Waterstones Locked Up Festival, you'll go right there. And there's 25% off the author's books with our promo code Locked Up. That's when you do Locked Up, and you can get 25% off The Cutting Place, The Turn of the Key, and The Shadow Framed. So I would recommend that you go and do that now, because that's a nice thing to do, is to buy books at events.
Yeah.
And then you'll have more books to read.
Someone in the comments is already, I might ban them actually, because Liverpool are playing right now and getting soundly beat as we speak. It doesn't matter too much, we've already won the league, but someone in the comments just said, am I the arsehole if I update Luca every time Man City score? Yes, you would be.
Yes.
You don't need to. I've literally just switched off the notifications from BBC Sport on my phone because I don't want to listen anymore. I don't want to hear it. But no, let's explain and we'll introduce everyone. So this is the Am I the Arsehole panel. If you listen to the podcast, you know what this is. I found the most incredible thread on Reddit called Am I the Arsehole, where people share their stories and ask for judgment regarding situations that they have found themselves within. And we like to now share these stories on our podcast and ask authors for their judgments on those stories. It is the most amazing thing. Whether or not 99% of these are absolute bullshit and did never happen, we don't know. We don't care. They're just amazing stories. Two people on the panel have experienced this on the podcast before, and that is the amazing Alex North. Thanks for coming on, Alex.
Hey there, thanks for having me on.
And Ruth Ware is also experienced this before, where we tried to besmirch her good name with a certain peanut butter story.
There is not tasted the same since.
And also we're joined by Jane Casey, who is going to experience this for the first time.
I'm very excited.
So thanks very much, all of you, for coming on. I think we're going to go straight into the first story. I've got all of them printed off here that I procured over a number of days. And they have varying levels of arseholeness and non-arseholeness. So this should provoke some kinds of debate. But the first one is titled, Am I the Arsehole for refusing to pay back my cousin after my baby ruined her blouse? I gave birth 4 weeks ago and we decided to have a baby ceremony where everyone gets to meet our lovely daughter, Charlotte. My cousin Alice and her parents were among the guests. The first thing I'll say about her is that she has expensive taste. She's the sort of person who has a minimum price range for how much she spends on clothing. She doesn't own anything that isn't designer and has some items of clothing that cost thousands. She is a banker and still lives with parents so can afford the lifestyle. It was Alice's turn to hold the baby and she was happy to at first, but suddenly Charlotte vomited on her. Alice handed Charlotte back to me and ran off crying and spent the rest of the event crying in the car. I went to see her to apologise, but she didn't want to hear any of it. My mum gave her one of her shirts, which was too big for her, and she felt completely upset and humiliated. Today I got a call from my mum saying that she'd been on the phone to her sister, Alice's mum, saying that they want me to reimburse the cost of the blouse, roughly £1,800, since it was completely ruined. I have said no. At the end of the day, we all know what babies can be like. She took a risk wearing something so expensive knowing a baby was nearby, and unfortunately it backfired. I feel bad for her, but it was not my fault. Am I doing the right thing by refusing to pay up? So who wants to go first? Let's go with Jane as the first person to pass judgment on this story. What do you think about this, Jane?
Straight in there, straight to me. Well, no, not the arse. I mean, who wears a blouse that costs the same amount as a second-hand car, for starters? And secondly, no, if you hold a baby, like especially a 4-week-old baby, everyone knows they leak from one end or the other, from one place or another. Like, they are just soggy little things. So no, she's absolutely not the arsehole for not paying for the blouse. It's ridiculous. And also, if I pay that amount of money for a blouse, I want to be able to put it in the washing machine. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that like 1,800 quid and you can't even wash vomit off it? What are we paying for? Pointless thing ever. Ruth, what do you think about this?
So broadly, I'm with Jane here. Clearly, it's utterly ridiculous. You know, babies are an act of God. What comes out of them, you can't stop it. You just have to accept it. You have to make your peace with it. But I do feel there is quite a lot going on under the surface of this. Am I the arsehole? And, you know, we're all writers here. We all like to read between the lines, kind of, you know, make a few assumptions. So the first thing that I'm interested in examining is the point where she said it was her turn to hold the baby, because I'm a parent and I love my children very dearly, but my least pet hate, and this goes for pets as well, is when you go around to someone's house and they kind of foist their offspring on you, or their pets or their dogs or whatever, like it's this enormous honour that you should have this, you know, slobbery dog sniffing at your crotch. And it's not. And people need to accept that what is beloved to them is not necessarily beloved to everybody else. So I would be interested in knowing whether this woman actually did want to hold this baby, or whether there was a lot of, you know, come on, it's your turn, blah, blah, blah. And the second thing is, I feel there's quite a lot of judginess in the post. You're basically being set up from the beginning to hate this woman because she's like, she's really rich, she's still living off her parents, you know, blah, blah, blah. So it just feels like there's quite a lot going on in this family. But broadly, no, you can't charge someone for a blouse that a baby puked up on, least of all if the blouse is £1,800.
So on the first point, because I did look through the comments, and the poster did reply on that point, and that was because people were saying the same thing, where you just, you know, saying this is your turn, you've got to hold the baby. And apparently, no, the I think her name was it Alice in the yeah, Alice did ask to hold the baby.
Alice begged to hold the baby.
But I don't think it was a begging thing. I think it's more of a case of, would you like to? And then
you can't be the arsehole. You can't say, no, I don't want to hold your baby, can you? No.
She
You can.
squeeze the
You can.
baby. She was tense and she squeezed it and just like, ugh. So no, definitely all her fault.
Alex, what do you think about this?
You know, I think I should have been taking notes as time went on, because to begin with, I was agreeing with Jane, and then Ruth kind of threw a spanner in the works, and I began to agree with her. And now, after you've given that update, Luca, I don't know entirely what to think. Because yeah, babies do what they do. So if they puke on you, then you know you can't expect the parent to you know to recompense you for damaged clothing. I mean, that's the nature of things. But like Ruth said, is there a suspicion that the parent maybe weaponized the child a little bit, you know, and kind of like primed this child to puke on her, you know, on her relative at this point because of some, you know, underlying conflict in the relationship that we don't quite know about. You know, I'm almost inclined to say nobody is an arsehole here, because if you own that kind of,
everybody is. That's an option too.
That is an option too. But also, you know, I wouldn't pay for somebody's outfit if it got damaged in that circumstances. But I can understand them being upset about an expensive item like that being puked on, even if they were stupid enough to wear it in the you know, proximity of a baby in the first place.
But imagine how stressed the mum must have been, because she's got a 4-week-old baby and she's thrown a party for her entire family to come and meet the baby. So yeah, that is a very high degree of difficulty as a hostess. And then your child is sick on someone who doesn't just go, it's fine, don't worry, I'll get it dry clean, but runs away and shuts himself in a car and cries. I mean, I'm sorry, no sympathy.
Are you sensing regret from the from the mum in any way, shape, or form, or anybody involved. I don't know. It's a weird one.
I'm really suspicious of posts on the internet that want you to see something in a particular way. Do you know what I mean? I think if you hang around a lot on forums, you get very experienced in seeing people who are presenting an experience where they're very clearly soliciting. She's not going on there to ask if she's the arsehole. She's going on there to be told that she's entirely right to do this. And if Alice is out there, if you're watching this, Alice, I would like to hear your side of the story.
Steve, what do you think? What do you think, Steve?
I wouldn't pay for an £1,800 blouse if I was sick on it. You know,
it's also true.
there's no way. I mean, and it's a baby. Sometimes babies explode. It could have been worse if the baby had shit all over her. That would have been worse. And you would sort of think,
actually, at 4 weeks, there's not much difference between what comes out the top and what comes out the bottom. So.
Well, the difference might be in viscosity and velocity,
Colour.
I suppose. It depends.
And kind of layers in between, the damage and everything like that.
Yeah. But I mean, in 1800, who would wear an £1,800 blouse? Are you not automatically a bit of an arsehole for buying an £1,800 blouse? Like, I can't compute that. Maybe that's very. There's people who maybe have an £1,800 blouse or shirt. I don't know, but I just no. I think the baby has struck a blow for the proletariat here, and I'm all for the baby. I'm happy the baby's done this.
I honestly thought you were going to say that the baby was the arsehole one.
No, I'm happy with this baby. This baby's statues of this baby.
There are a few people in the comments.
The bourgeoisie.
There are a few people in the comments who were saying that the baby is the arsehole. Someone who says, was the baby drunk at the party? Because red wine is really difficult to get out of blouses. But I mean, I think I think asking for the money for the blouse is an arsehole move. Yeah. I do think that. I think if Alice had felt obliged to hold the baby, she could have brought that up afterwards to say, listen, I didn't want to hold the baby and you forced it on me. Can you maybe regulate your behaviour from now on around regards to your baby? But I tend to err on the side that the arsehole is Alice for asking for 1,800 quid for the blouse repayment. I don't like that at all. I think once you spent that much on a blouse, I think you can replace it quite easily. If you can afford that, you can probably replace it. And I think that's how
many blouses you could get in Primark for that.
1,800, I think, will be the answer. If you want to, in the comments, if you want to decide, I'll let you go now. So say if you think the arsehole is the person who's posted, or there is no arseholes in the story, everyone's an arsehole, or they are not the arsehole, you can go now, and I'll see what the straw polling is of that in the comments. No one's doing it. It's fine. Anyway.
Hang on.
It's going crazy now.
Going mad now.
Here we go.
Lots of votes for Alice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of Alice is the arsehole. Person wearing the blouse, the arsehole. All arseholes, Noelle Holton says.
I just feel like anyone who has an £1,800 blouse-shaped hole in their life has probably suffered a lot. Like, there's stuff going on here that we're not hearing about. Alice must have some esteem issues, so.
I think that's very fair. Ruth's very fair in these things.
She's been very kind.
Yeah.
She is.
Ruth is the best. I comment.
Ruth is who you want in your corner if you do something stupid.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's because I've always wanted to be a lawyer, you see. I have to defend people on the internet.
Steve was a defence lawyer, and he's like, fuck them all.
Yeah.
Oh, no, fuck them all.
Joe Clark says Alice's issue is she is an arsehole. Victoria Logan, if my baby did that, I would be mortified, but unable to pay for the blouse. I mean, that's the thing. Most of us would not have 1,800 quid just to give someone for a blouse.
See, I think I would misread it and say certainly I will be happy to transfer you the money and then transfer them £18 and pretend that I thought there was a dog.
So then you come back and say it was 1,800. Say like, oh, you got more problems than I can solve then.
What was it made out of? At £1,800, what kind of a blouse costs £1,800?
That's like a TV in it or something like that.
Right, we got the next story, and this one is a short one. Am I the arsehole for honking at another driver who cut in front of me at a drive-through each time she tried to order? This line at a Starbucks I went to was really long. I was in line for a good maybe 20 minutes until this lady in a Mercedes tries to cut in front of me and like 8 others behind me. I laid on the horn and tried to block her from cutting me, but she succeeded anyway and flipped me off. Okay, I'm the type of person who will not let someone get away with shit like this. So I waited until she pulled up, and as soon as she tried to order, I start honking. She then looks at me with a dirty look and gives me the finger, which I had already a middle finger of my own ready for her in return. Each time she makes an attempt to order something, I honk my horn, and sometimes lay on the horn for at least 3 seconds. We stopped as soon as she drove off. We then ordered and went about our day. I just can't stand people who are extremely rude like that lady, and I couldn't simply let this go. Am I the arsehole for this? How annoying would that be? Jane, what do you think about this?
I just think anyone who cuts into a queue, I just think automatically they deserve whatever happens to them. I think it's hilarious. I would love to be that person with their finger on the hook, waiting for them to keep trying to order their latte or their whatever it is. Interestingly, we got a mention of the Mercedes as well. Like, we're supposed to hate this person. She's wealthy and entitled. She's pushed in to get her caffeine fix, even though there are many other people waiting. So I think this person is definitely looking for a round of applause rather than to be told that they are the arsehole in this situation. But I have to say, like, it's the one thing that makes me go absolutely psychotic with rage is having somebody push in front of me in a queue. I just can't deal with it. I cannot do it. So yeah, no, they are not the arsehole. The queue jumper is the arsehole.
There is a little bit of performative arseholism in this, I think, is that like just I want people to think like, you know, I've done this amazing thing. Ruth, I'm sure you'll side with it. Do you own a Mercedes and this might really cut through to you?
No, I'm not even going to attempt to defend this one. It was restorative justice. It was entirely the only point that I would make, which doesn't take away from the general nobility of the honker, is that it must have been incredibly annoying for the staff and probably actually held up the line for longer. But I think under the circumstances, it was fully justified. I'm like Jane. I'm generally, as you know, a pretty chill person. I'll forgive most people most things. Cutting in line in front of me, no, I will hate you forever.
Yeah, I'm really bad with that kind of thing. And in this weird timeline that we're all going through at the moment, and we're having to queue up outside of like Asda constantly, and I didn't realise that many people are going to Asda at 11 o'clock in the morning on a weekday.
There's nowhere else to go.
That's the thing. It's like that was a day out. But the amount of people who were who didn't understand where the queue started and they couldn't follow arrows or anything like that. Alex has been through my arrows rants on the podcast. But yeah, it was the people who knowingly cut in and going, oh, I didn't understand. And they're just doing that because as soon as someone points it out, I think there's a special corner in hell for people who cut in front of people in queues. But Alex, maybe you disagree. What do you think on this?
I don't drive, so I do have an opinion on this, but I'm also wondering if there might be like an unspoken through line here that the person in the Mercedes who's been honked at after cutting in and driving away is actually Alice wearing her $1,800 blouse covered in baby vomit, thinking I can't get a break here. She just wanted something to eat, I mean, no, I don't drive, and I hate people that cut in. It's awful, isn't it? I mean, it's just kind of that instinct of, I'm more important than everybody else. I need to get there first. So, kind of fuck them on that level. Honking at them, I like honking. It's like the irritating goose game. Kind of just honking at people. You're not the arsehole for doing it, but like other people have said, it's clearly performative. You don't think you're the arsehole doing that. You just want to clap on the back for kind of showing somebody up. So in a way, that makes you a bit of an arsehole, doesn't it? For posting this online, wanting a round of applause. Yeah, everybody's the arsehole there.
people in Starbucks car park on your side. You had to get the whole internet on your side as well.
But I can just imagine, though, is that it's not just the person who cuts in. There'll have been people behind them in the cars who are waiting even more now because this guy's decided to just hold up even more by just laying on the horn every time they try to order. And I can't imagine that was a fun, few minutes. But Steve, what do you think about this?
I think this would have been hilarious when it was happening. I'm sure the McDonald's people saw what happened, and every time she tried to order, the horn went, and I think they would have laughed at it. I think that would have brightened their day. And queues are hell. So anyone who jumps a queue, I'm with Jane on this. Anyone who jumps a queue should be shot. But I had a queue. I had to go to Argos there a couple of weeks ago, and it was an Argos. The regular Argos wasn't open, and I had to go to one in a supermarket. And the size of this queue, and everyone, was social distancing, but the queue was way out through the car park. I thought, it's fucking Moses at the end of this queue. Am I going there? Am I going somewhere? And so I get queue rage, and I'm quite happy that this person honked and did this. I thought it would have been hilarious. So well done for them. But I have some sympathy for Steve's or Alex's point of view that anyone who does post this online is a little bit of an arsehole because they just want people to say, yes, you weren't the arsehole, you've done something great. Yeah.
And that does happen quite a lot on the thread, is that you will find a lot of the people are just looking for a clap on the back, just that internet kind of high five. And there's some who will go on there and post stories thinking that they will get the same thing and don't, because they are the arsehole and don't realise it. But that for me is someone asked in the comments, how do you cut in a drive-thru?
Yeah, it's a good question, I think.
And I don't know how this is one of those stories where I start questioning the veracity of the actual claim.
On their phone though, playing a bit of Candy Crush, not really looking. Someone's like, oh, there's a space.
Someone steams in.
Yeah.
And if this happened in America, I went to America in March, and I was happy to find that Americans still have no concept of queuing. That there is they don't understand the way we're very, prim and proper in Great Britain, is that we all know how to queue. In America, it never seemed like it was just like a free-for-all, which I loved, because that meant that I could just go right to the front and no one said anything, because I was, the weird one, the guy with the weird accent. But it didn't happen a lot.
Saying, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you all here. Good Lord, I don't understand this American queuing system.
But it was, that's the thing for me, is that I think this person is just wanting the clap on the back. If this is a real story, I think the person who cut in should have a word with themselves. It's only a Starbucks. You can wait a few more minutes. I don't understand why everyone's so impatient. I don't understand that anyway. I haven't got my license like Alex, so I don't drive. And I've been subject to my wife's Emma's kind of trails on the road where it's unreal, some of the stuff that we see. People who don't indicate at roundabouts. What's that about? Why not? Well, it's literally there. It's literally just do that.
The element of surprise is so important on these occasions. You can't let anyone know what you're doing, otherwise they'll just know what's coming. So,
You know what I blame? I blame Starbucks, because I think that's a very poorly constructed drive-through queue. One of the things that pleased me most about lockdown was that the first day when I went to our local supermarket, the queue was ridiculous, and it was like snaking around all over the car park, and cars were having to drive through it and stuff. And I went back about 2 days later, and they had divided the car park up into this long snaking queue, divided up with upturned trolleys to enforce social distancing so that you couldn't leap over. And it was like kind of a prison style level of efficiency, with a member of staff to stop people from kind of cutting through. And I thought, these are my people. I'm never going to shop anywhere else.
I do like the order. I like the order of things that's come in, and that does please me quite a lot. But in the comments, let us know who you think is the arsehole. Is it the Mercedes driver or the car horn honker? Vote now. Well, not vote, because you can't really vote. You just
Can't vote.
Bit of
All on
both,
honker.
both.
Bit of.
Uh, Everyone sucks here. Both arseholes. Everyone sucks. Mercedes driver, Mercedes driver, Mercedes driver, Mercedes driver. There's more comments about the fact that it's a bit of both. Anyone who cuts in as an arsehole, Mercedes driver.
Everybody sucks here.
Everyone sucks here. Interesting one that I think is that I kind of do slide towards that everyone is an arsehole in this story.
Someone's still on Alice. That just flashed up. Alice.
I know. I've planted that seed now.
No.
And it's
Well, this might be Alice as well. You might because this is very interesting. This one, I've been wanting to do this one for a while. Am I the arsehole for pretending to be an appletarian, eating only apple-derived foods or drinks for 3 weeks as a prank, causing my friends to have an intervention for me? I got the idea a few weeks ago to prank my friends by pretending to be an appletarian, meaning somebody who only eats food products that are derived from apples and would only drink apple juice or apple cider. I told them all that I had read on the internet that eating only apples was the healthiest thing for you. When I first told them, they thought I was joking, but they underestimated how committed I would be to the joke. So whenever in the presence of one of my friends, or friend of friends, co-workers, etc., anyone who knew anyone, I was very careful to only be seen eating apples or drinking apple juice / cider. Apples whole, apples diced, apple sauce, the inside of an apple pie, baked apples, candy apples with the chocolate shaved off, etc. Finally, after about a week, they bought that I had become an appletarian. They started giving me information about how unhealthy it was to only eat apples and growing increasingly exasperated by it. Some of them even got angry, but I wanted to stick with the joke. Finally, after the end of 3 weeks, I walked into what I was told was a movie night, but was actually an intervention for me. They were all super concerned about my well-being and had all sorts of information or whatever. Finally, I started laughing hysterically. They were confused as hell, so I told them I had been faking it the whole time and had been eating real meals outside their knowledge. I even took out some beef jerky from my pants pocket to prove it and munched on it. I thought they'd appreciate the joke, but they were actually really annoyed. My girlfriend even broke up with me over over this, because a few days ago I had ruined our date night when I told the waiter I only wanted apples because I was an appletarian and had embarrassed her for a dumb joke. In my opinion, the joke was solid and they should appreciate my commitment to the prank. But did I go too far?
I have an opinion.
Ruth has got such a strong opinion. We're going to go to Ruth first. Ruth, what's your opinion?
My opinion is that this person is definitely the arsehole, unless all of his friends are mackheads, because I have had so many tedious conversations with people who are so devoted to their Apple products that they cannot conceive of any way of life. It's like they've become, Scientologists or something. So if that was the case, then it was a funny, performative way of pushing back at their "we are Borg," but otherwise, no, he's just an arsehole.
I like I hadn't thought about it being in relation to the Apple products. It's like, that is a really good searing indictment on society, isn't it? It's like, I'm going to do this for 3 weeks to make this point. I like that a lot.
Push back against our kind of consumerist, yeah.
I like that. Jane, what do you think about this?
Well, I'm glad his girlfriend broke up with him. Starters, because
And I'm surprised.
he did not deserve to have a nice girlfriend who he treated that way. Secondly,
we don't know she was nice though.
She didn't break up with him immediately. She waited until she found out it was a prank, and then she broke up with him. So, I don't think he deserves to have friends, because his lovely friends were really worried about him. They must be like as innocent as dogs, because if one of my friends started telling me I'm only going to eat apples and it's just apples all the way for me, I'd just be like, okay, enjoy. I really would not think of intervening. I think you're an adult, go and do what you want, eat the apples, drink the apples, whatever. But no, I think it's horrible. I think his friends were really, really worried about him, and he did it all as a kind of a stupid prank, because what did it matter if they believed him or not? I just don't, it doesn't make sense to me. It's not funny. So therefore he's the arsehole.
Louise Colvin in the comments makes a good point, is that the girlfriend had probably had enough of his pranks. Like, this wasn't the first one. Alex, do you think that might be the case?
It may well be the case. I don't want to litigate the guy's relationship because I don't know him or anything like that. But based on the information that you've given, I don't know. We're talking about, am I the arsehole? And maybe we need to talk about what an arsehole is, because this guy just seems like an idiot. You know, I mean, it doesn't even reach the level of being an arsehole. It's so petty and stupid, and I don't actually get the joke at all, almost. So this guy is a fool, and his friends who went along with it, I can't imagine anybody believing that or going along with it. It's so trivial and stupid that it doesn't even reach the level of arsehole, you know?
It does, because basically what he's describing is an eating disorder, isn't it? I mean, there are people who get completely obsessed with what they're eating to the point of, you know, only clean eating or only eating, you know, fruit or only eating raw seeds or something. And what he's describing is a form of, you know, eating orthodoxy that is dangerous to his health. And, you know, like if we were debating, was he an arsehole for pretending to be anorexic, no one would be like, oh, I don't know, it was just a prank kind of thing.
That's true. That's true. But eating only apples, wouldn't his friends Google that? That's not a real thing, is it? You know, that's not.
Like I said, I only eat crunchies.
But then none of these stupid diets are a real thing until someone on Instagram does it, and then at that point it becomes the hottest new way to lose that weird belly fat.
I'm actually Googling now Appletarian to see if it exists.
Surely there's not but I bet you that's a weird California thing. There's people in California do weird things like that. They only eat apples, or they go and do that thing where I read it in the newspaper, they get sunlight into their arsehole. that you remember you read that in the paper? Unbelievable.
And being fruitarian is a real thing. I used to know someone who was a fruitarian because they won't harm the mother plant. So the ethic of it is that you can only eat something that you can pick without harming the mother plant. And so you can't eat potatoes because in order to eat a potato, you have to like dig up the potato. You know, no matter that most of these are annuals and will be dead in 2 months anyway, but you know.
That's just weird though. Is that a weird?
Yeah.
Were they otherwise normal, Ruth, or were they just a bit like cuckoo?
They were quite strange.
They make their own clothes.
On many levels. I didn't know them for very long. It was very brief. So
somebody in the comments is saying that the fruit has to fall. It can't be pushed. It can't be killed.
Oh my God, this is how.
Well, if you're only eating fruit as your sole diet, nothing needs to be pushed. It all falls out.
If you were to like gently shake the tree, would that be allowable?
Yeah.
Just a gentle shaking of the tree might be okay.
Yeah.
Still, there is fruit that does require to be picked. Otherwise, it just falls off when it's, you know, just gone off, hasn't it? That's the thing.
I don't know. Apples fall when they're perfectly edible.
Yeah. I don't know.
We're in deep philosophical waters here, folks.
Yeah,
we're not qualified for this.
No, we're not qualified for this. So in the comments, let us know if you think this person is the arsehole, if he's not the arsehole, if everyone is an arsehole or no one is the arsehole. I'm erring towards the idea that he might be an arsehole or just.
I think he's definitely an arsehole.
I just
That's a funny arsehole. Like that's the thing.
Arsehole.
Funny. I think we're like, oh no, you know, okay, I see the point, but no.
I think at the point where his friends started to get upset for him, that was the point at which he became the arsehole instead of just a pranker.
Yeah, I mean, if this is a series of ongoing pranks, it may be, but for his girlfriend to break up with him, I think there's a lot more going on, to be honest, and I think this was just the end of a long list for her. But yeah, I think in the comments, a lot of people are saying they are the arsehole. Someone has pointed out that Alice was the girlfriend that broke up with him. He's an arsehole. Friends are stupid unless they are pranking him back. He's an idiot. Apple dude was an arsehole. He gave her the pip. Maybe that was why Alice left him. Then she bought the posh blouse to cheer herself up. Abby says, yeah, the apple was just the apple on the cake. I think it's pretty clear that this person was an arsehole for doing this. I think he just needs to get out a bit more. This just seems like an awful waste of time. For 3 weeks, I can barely do the same thing for 3 days. You know, that 3 weeks is a lot of time to do that.
I bet he didn't do it behind closed doors, though, did he? It was only when people could see him. Sure.
Yeah, but I mean, it sounds like he had to do it quite a lot, which is like
He went out for a meal in a restaurant. Yeah, that's like
he had a date night and still can't do it.
a restaurant. Look, we're locked down. We haven't had a restaurant meal for about 4 months.
Like you're wasting a night out in a restaurant so that you can annoy the waiter and annoy your girlfriend and just eat an apple.
For a terrible prank.
I was never on his side, but I'm even more annoyed.
Yeah, me too.
Right, next one. Am I the arsehole for replacing myself with my twin brother at my in-laws' Christmas Eve party to see if anyone noticed? I am 31 and have an identical twin brother. For a while, I've told my wife that none of her family members notice me or care about anything I do on Christmas Eve, but they insist on me attending. She told me that it's not true. They genuinely like me and enjoy talking to me. But I know that the only times they've included me, I had to basically insert myself into conversations, and it feels awkward and unnatural. So I had a wager with my wife. Bring my twin brother Steve instead of me and see if anyone notices. I purposefully did not prep Steve on anything. He went in completely clueless. He knew why we were doing it and it was a game, and I gave him $20, but that was it. As I suspected, Steve confirmed that he wasn't approached all night. Nobody could tell he wasn't me, and he admitted he even felt excluded, and he could only imagine how I felt. So, this morning, on Christmas, I invited Steve to join. Normally he's with my mum and dad every year as he's not married or in a relationship. They know about him, obviously, but didn't know about the old switcheroo. That was when I revealed that last night I was Steve and expressed disappointment that nobody noticed and said this is why I stopped trying. Nobody talks to me. My wife drew the line here. She was hoping we would keep this between the two of us as a funny prank, but how can I expect her family to see what jerks they've been if I don't expose it? For what it's worth, Steve was fine. Am I the arsehole? Oh, I've always wanted a twin brother for literally just this thing. This is why I always wanted a twin brother for, was to do these kind of things. But that is next level. Jane, let's go to you first.
Oh, okay. Well, if he hadn't told his wife and if he had tried to fool her out, then I would say not okay. But I think if you have a twin brother, you almost have a duty to let him imitate you. At some point in your life, everything has to be ethical and above board, but going to a family party that you don't even want to go to and that you're forced to go to every year, I think this is the perfect time to do it. And, you know, he proved the point. Now, whether it was the diplomatic thing to reveal that nobody talked to him and that they'd all been awful because they're clearly awful people, I don't know. But I don't think that they're missing out on anything by not spending time with these people because they sound terrible. So, no, not the arsehole. Well done for deploying your twin brother so well. I love it. Excellent work.
Yeah, I mean, that is the thing. I think it's like a rule that if you have an identical twin at some point in your lives, you know, you have to break out the whole can you tell the difference? Which, if they are identical, I don't think it's anyone's fault if they don't. But what I do think is a fault is when they treat them exactly the same and show that they are not being nice to that person in the first place. Ruth, what do you think about this?
So I don't think that in going to the party, sending Steve to the party, he was an arsehole. I agree with Jane. With his wife's permission, I think that was fine. Where I think it strays into he actually is an arsehole is he's basically been really horrible to his wife and to his wife's family, and there are lots of ways to build bridges. It feels like this whole thing was an exercise in proving to his wife that her family are arseholes, and that is not a kind thing to do to anybody. And I feel the person who's ended up suffering here is his wife, because now she's being asked to choose between her husband and her family. And actually, I think that is a pretty arsehole thing for him to do. You know, they haven't been like completely toxic to him and reduced him to tears and told him that he's a terrible person. They just were having a nice time on Christmas Eve and forgot to go up and talk to him. It's not crime of the century. And so I feel that on the question he framed in his "Am I the arsehole?" No, he is not. But more generally, I think he is. And I think his wife deserves a bunch of flowers and an apology.
Alex, what do you think?
Well, I think it's like the last example, I think this gets us back to the existential question of what an arsehole is. Because at the beginning of the story, I'm all with this guy, and it's funny, and I like it. And, you know, he's completely fine sending his twin there. That's great. You know, I have no opinion on the existence of twins and how we should use them and everything like that. But a fine use of a twin in this situation. And it's all good and it's all grand. And he's not an arsehole until he starts kind of showing off about it and revealing it to people and bragging about it on the internet. And he becomes an arsehole at that point. It kind of shifts over. He's in the right up until then. And then he becomes an arsehole for bragging about it, for using it, for hurting people in that way. Up until then, it's kind of fun. And then after that, unnecessary, I think. I don't know.
See, I think his wife is a bit of an arsehole because he's clearly unhappy about how her family treat him. And instead of backing him up or trying to do anything about it, she sort of let it go for the sake of keeping the peace and not causing trouble with her family. And you know, they're married and she has some loyalty to him. He's miserable. It ruins Christmas every year for him. He feels insignificant. I mean, none of that is good either. And like, you can't choose your family. Sometimes people have awful families, but if you're married to someone, then you've chosen to be with them and you should put them first.
I just feel like there could be a lot of, we heard the wife's side of this, you know, I think it's very possible that he's turned up like a sulky teenager to 6 Christmases in a row, sat in the corner waiting for everybody to ask him about his important job, slightly sighed when one of the grannies came up to him, pretended he needed to go to the loo. You know, it seems unlikely that he's the only member of this whole family who is being ignored and overlooked.
I think you're saying that there might be something wrong with him. That's what you're saying.
I'm just saying that we're only hearing his side of it, and what he considers to be his amazing conversational abilities and charming personality are being cruelly overlooked by her family. That might be true, but it might be that there's other things going on.
Well, that's my thinking, is that it's Christmas and he decides to, on Christmas morning, throw this horrible situation into that, which automatically, in my eyes, makes him a bit of an arsehole. So if he's willing to do that, is he just like that normally, and that's why his family doesn't want to speak to him, because he's just an arsehole anyway? Steve, what do you think?
A petulant man-child for years over this, and this is his final grenade to prove that he.
And they have still invited him year after year. He's, you know, they've put up with him at least. He's there.
He's family, you know.
I think Jane and Alex and Ruth there should be in a newspaper on a Sunday, like an agony column, where people write in and they have these awful problems, and it's debated between Jane and Alex and Ruth. I think it would be fabulously entertaining. I wasn't really listening, so I don't really care.
We're that entertaining, Steve. You just didn't bother to.
You got literally one.
It's quite late, isn't it, Steve?
I didn't really listen to him. No, I was listening. I'm only kidding on. I don't know. I think there is a bit of arseholdom on both sides here. I think with the family maybe haven't been too nice to him, but he hasn't really tried to make an impression either, really. Doesn't sound to me as if he's done that. So I think I think there has to be a meeting of minds and a frank conversation, but I think he's sort of blown it big time. So yeah, there's a bit of to and fro here. I think this is a case where perhaps there's more than one arsehole at play.
Andy Dutton has kind of redeemed himself a little bit. This is a guy from before who has been updating me on the score, by the way, and Liverpool getting beat 5-0 apparently. But he says Alice has had a rough day. The night before, her boyfriend finally confesses that he's been leading her whole group of mates on about being an Appletarian, and she needs a coffee to calm down. She jumps in her Merc and heads to Starbucks on the way to a family gathering. Alice decides she hasn't got time to wait in the queue at Starbucks, so cuts in and gets honked at unrelatingly. She arrives at the party and her sister foists her baby on her. The baby pukes and ruins her £1,800 blouse. However, this isn't the biggest drama of the night, as her sister's boyfriend decides to come out as not her sister's boyfriend, but actually sister's boyfriend's brother, and his name is JT LeBeau.
That's like an episode. I think I watched an episode of EastEnders like that.
If people in the comments, let us know if you think this person's the arsehole, if there are no arseholes in the story, everyone's an arsehole, or they are not the arsehole. Go for it. It was 4-0 at full time, was it? Someone just put 4-0. Andy's winding me up.
Pretending to be their twin, let us know.
Yeah, it was 4-0. 4-0. Everyone sucks here. He is the arsehole. Man City are the arseholes. Yes, they are. Not enough to say he's an arsehole. He's the arsehole due to timing. I agree with that one. The apple is an arsehole.
Everyone's an arsehole.
Everyone's an arsehole. He is the arsehole anyway. All arseholes. Everyone sucks here. Become an arsehole. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. Is that like a lot of these stories, you're only getting one side, as Ruth says earlier. I mean, that's the thing for me, is that it's very difficult to judge on one side of a story.
Unreliable narrator.
Exactly, and that's what I was going to go into. Is like a lot of these stories is like pretty much what I love in crime fiction, is this kind of sense of never really knowing what the true story is, what's going on, because you are only getting one side of a story at that point.
I love all the follow-up questions in those threads, because people will ask the question and they'll answer it thinking, well, yeah, this is part of the story. I'm kind of into this. People are talking to me. And then they reveal the actual truth, which is that they once got very drunk at that Christmas party and threw up all over her mother in her new 1,800-pound blouse. And he's not a baby, and no one could excuse that. And so now nobody can look him in the eye, and that's why no one talks to him. But you only get that in the comments. You never get that in the original post.
No, that's the thing, is that, I mean, I thought you were going to say threw on a baby, which would be even worse, I think. But there are, I mean, like, there's some as well where they'll throw out, like, this is not important information type of thing, where it's like, oh, by the way, this happened. And I've just remembered one then. I'm going to find it now, because it was... Right. Okay. So yes, so it's this one. Am I the arsehole for calling out she's 24, father-in-law, 55, and his very inappropriate relationship with my cousin, 26? I recently got married to my husband, and so far it's been great. However, I can see that my father-in-law has a great dislike for me, but I've been nothing but kind and helpful to him. My husband is the only child, and my father-in-law really wanted a daughter. I thought he'd be excited when I joined the family as a daughter, but no. Instead, my father-in-law blatantly favours my cousin. He says stuff like, she's my daughter, and I'm so proud of her. It really annoys me, and when I bring it up, he says that I'm his daughter-in-law, but she will always be like a daughter to him. We were visiting the US pre-corona and visited a city that my cousin and her new fiancé live in. We weren't initially planning on visiting them, and I think my father-in-law wants to visit her without us. However, we decided to go last minute because of my mum. Now, when we went to her place, we were taken aback by her success. She's done really well for herself, and I am proud. When we were there, my father-in-law and cousin connected like no time had passed, and they were laughing and joking. He also gave her a valuable item that she apparently been talking about forever, and he bought it especially for her. He's never done any shit like that for me. After we visited, my father-in-law couldn't stop going on and on about how she's done so well for herself, and he's proud of her, and she will always be a daughter to him, and yada yada. He also said that he's so happy that she didn't end up marrying his son, my husband, or else she wouldn't have got as far as she did, and her new fiancé is so much better. I got pissed off and questioned their relationship and why they're so close and why they even keep in contact now. We all live in separate countries. I said that something must be going on and that he must have some type of feelings for her to consider her this much. My father-in-law lost it and told me that she'd always been so much better than me, and that now he didn't want to have any relationship with me anymore, and I'd always be his son's unworthy wife. Now, here's what was left out at the beginning. I do have to add, my cousin and my husband were engaged first. I fell in love with my husband during their engagement, and I helped him cheat. I apologized to her for that, and it was a huge rift in my family. She didn't accept my apology at the time and called me a cunt. She hasn't talked to me since, and the first time she did was when we visited her. She still doesn't talk to me after the visit, but at the visit she acted like everything was apparently okay, and it didn't even feel like there was any animosity between us. My father-in-law has given me the cold shoulder and won't let me talk to him anymore. Am I the arsehole for bringing this up? I mean, that's the thing. That's burying the lead somewhat, is to say that her cousin...
Who's what? Who's everybody to what here? What?
So her cousin
Yes.
was engaged to her now husband.
Right.
And then she has decided she wants to be with this guy and he wants to be with her. They cheated and then they got together. The father-in-law has not accepted this change by the sound of it and really liked the original person and has continued to treat them like a daughter, even though there's no blood relation going on there other than with the person. But that is burying the lead. And that happens so much on those threads. It's unreal, and that's the problem, isn't it? It's that you only get one side of the story, and it's unusual to see it added into the original thread because usually it comes out in the comments, as Jane says. But that's the thing. That was just one I remembered,
isn't it? It's a completely game-changing fact, and
exactly.
if you hadn't put that in, everyone would be like, "Oh yeah, you poor thing," he's being a bit of a bastard. And,
yeah, and that's the thing is that because it's like, well, there's no connection between them. It's just his daughter-in-law's cousin that he seems to have decided is like a daughter to him. And then you throw in that, as you said earlier, it just, by the way, it's a huge thing. I mean,
she should be a psychological thriller novelist. That's what you do. You get 2/3. She paced it wrong, actually. She should have put the twist slightly earlier. But 2/3 of the way through, and then you drop the bomb and pull back and deal with it.
I love that one. I've got one. Let's go for one more, and then I'll go quickly to some questions here. But I've got one more. Am I the arsehole for using money we earmarked for our six-month-old's college fund to buy back the exact 1972 Ford Bronco I owned as a teenager? So, how to begin this? I realise that on paper I am totally the arsehole. But when you dig deeper into my motivations, I'm hoping it's more of a grey area than anything else. And maybe even I did the right thing. When I was a teenager, my dad bought me a classic 1972 Ford Bronco. It was my true passion, and I don't recall a memory from high school that somehow doesn't involve that truck. Plus, my mum and my dad and I would spend hours and hours working on it together, and we went through that especially father-son rough patch when I was a teenager, and it was always the Bronco that brought us back together. I made a huge mistake and sold the truck when I turned 19, and my dad died of a heart attack 2 months later, so while not logical, I've always felt a karmic connection between the two events. We had a baby in early February. She's our first and the light of my life. My wife is doing well, but she's back at work, and she's realised that she hates all the daycares we've tried and really wants to be a stay-at-home mum, and plus she's still very hormonal from delivery, lack of sleep and breastfeeding, so she's having a rough time and is angry a lot. I guess I need to say this. 2 weeks ago, I was driving through our town's warehouse district and saw a Bronco that was pretty beat up but resembled mine. I stopped just for nostalgia's sake, and the owner came out and let me take a look inside. My dad and I had glued a wheat penny under the dash as some sort of security measure, so I just sort of checked, and goddamn if it wasn't my Bronco. I asked him if he'd ever considered selling it. He said, actually, someone was on I-25 as we spoke from Colorado to buy it for $21,000. I freaked out and I asked him if I could buy it right there and then for $23,000. He said if I could come up with the cash, yes. I had been procrastinating setting up a 529, so I had the $12,000 in savings that my wife's parents had given us. I maxed out my credit card to Venmo, and my mum brought down a check for $4,000, and I fucking drove away in my old car. It was like a dream come true, like a literal dream come true. It needs a lot of work I can't afford right now, but it's mine. Like in my driveway, mine. Again, I can't even describe what a joy this is. My wife and her parents are furious with me. They feel I was deceptive, that a real man would have sacrificed everything and anything so my wife could stay at home with his kids, and that's setting aside that they gave us the money for a college fund. My point is, my daughter is only 6 months old. We have 18 years to set up a college fund for her, but this Bronco means everything to me, and if I wouldn't have acted, it would have been gone forever. Now it can be that same connection between me and my kids. To me, it's the literal meaning of happiness. Like I said, on paper, arsehole. Whole story, grey area. How do you guys see it?
Arsehole. Easy.
I'd like to know some. I don't know whether this came up in the comments, but I think it is relevant when his dad died.
2 months after he sold the Bronco, he died, and this must be a few years ago. Yeah, a few years ago.
So he's not like reeling with grief at this
No,
point.
this is a good few years in between this happening and that.
pretty bad. I don't know if he's an arsehole, because I do understand why he did it, and it must, yeah. I mean, I don't think he was acting in his right mind, but what he did was not okay by any stretch.
And I love that he doesn't even want to be not an arsehole. He wants to be like the area around the arsehole, the kind of the grey area. That's what he's aiming for. Like, he knows.
He's like a buttock.
Yeah. Or just like, you know, maybe the taint. Like, I think that's really what he's shooting for here. And I just think that's amazing. Like, he has enough self-awareness to know he's done something so stupid and like was seen coming. Like, oh yeah, I'm sure there was somebody coming to buy a very old car for $21,000 who was just down the road. I mean, like, has he never bought anything before? Does he pay like $4,000 for milk and stuff because someone else might buy it first? No.
You see, that's the bit that I don't know, because as I said earlier on, I don't drive, so I don't know the value of this car. I don't know whether cars depreciate or, you know, get, whether it's an investment. I don't know. That kind of old car, is it any kind of investment? Has he thrown his money away, or
See, the other thing
planted a seed?
I was worried about was his bit that he put in at the end about the fact that he thinks this is going to be a bridge for him and his kids, and he's done a massively selfish thing here, and what his dad did for him was not a selfish thing, and I think he's setting himself up for a lifetime of really rocky parenting if he expects to reproduce his own upbringing as some kind of like weird role play fantasy with it. Do you know, like, that's not
that is very true.
For.
I think the bit that says everything to me is that there's a line there which is absolutely superfluous to the story entirely, which is that she's still very hormonal from delivery, lack of sleep, and breastfeeding, so she's having a rough time and is angry a lot. I think this guy is probably an arsehole just professionally at this point, and it's just been, and this is just, by the way, I've just spent $23,000 on this car that I owned a few years back. For no good reason. I mean, how would you even explain that? Steve, what do you think about this?
I always said there's no grey areas here. He's just a total arsehole. And he knows it, and he just feels guilty about what he's done. So we should take the car back and sell it back to the man for as much money as he can get and put that money back into the kids' college fund. And, you know, that's just a rotten thing to do. You should never have done that.
Anne Block6 makes the point that that's why the baby was sick on Alice. She just found out her dad had squandered her college fund. Tom says it was OJ sentimental for his Bronco after the live police chase on the news all those years ago, maybe. Becca says $23,000 on a banger. Is that car Christine? What an arsehole. That's the thing, is that, like, for me, it's just, it feels like a very big nostalgic moment of like, I want this and I'm going to have this without any thought about the outside consequences. At a time when this baby may be only a few months old and his thoughts should be on that baby's future, he's only thought about his own past.
Yeah.
But do we really believe it was the car? I mean, that's, yeah.
I have a copy.
I think it's all bullshit. Anyway.
I have a copy editor's question here, which is, do they not have the same system of license plates that we do in the UK? Because I would have thought the first thing he'd recognise would be the license plate. Like, if it's this car that has meant so much to you, wouldn't you be like straight away, oh my God, that's my car, it's X145. Why this weird penny stuck under the dashboard detail?
Yeah, I see, I'm not buying that at all.
Yeah, I mean, it all he says is that it's
someone says license plates change with owners.
Okay, that's not
over
here, so.
Yeah, license plate.
But, yeah, there would have been a VIN number on it somewhere, some kind of vehicle number. Or maybe not. Maybe if they're really old, they don't have that. I don't know.
But also, he hadn't set up the college fund. Like, he'd had the money, but he hadn't done anything with it. So he was sort of sitting around being a bit of an arsehole anyway. And his wife was in tears and hormonal and trying to breastfeed and work at the same time. And he was just like, well, it really sucks to be me at the moment because, wow, she's angry a lot of the time. Like, he was already scraping along below the bar of acceptability and then did this. Like, the car is like the last thing that he did wrong.
It feels like this is more about him suddenly being like, oh my God, I've got a baby. I'm never going to have any fun anymore. My wife's really mad all the time. I know, I'll do something for me. It's kind of almost like a midlife crisis moment, isn't it?
And more than half the money that he spent on this was what the wife's parents had given them for the college fund.
And the rest was debt.
And the rest of it was just debt on credit cards, which is
He doesn't even squander their money. He's actually put them in negative kind of figures.
For a crap beat up car.
Well, for £23,000, if you're going to have a midlife crisis, you can have a better one than that, I would have thought, can't you?
Yeah. Like, we wouldn't pay £23,000 for an old car unless it's a transformer. If the car is a transformer, he's done well. That's an investment.
It's a classic car and it is going to appreciate, but it doesn't sound like...
Doesn't sound like it will.
Ford Bronco isn't usually what you see at an auction, is it? Like, of like classic cars.
And also, if it does appreciate, is he ever going to allow them to sell it? Like, is his kid going to be like, oh, I've got into Harvard, however will we pay the fees? They'll be like, well, I'm sure don't know. Don't look at that Bronco sitting in the garage.
Paul Harvey makes a very good point. Think how much better he would have felt if he donated the $23,000 to the Trussell Trust, which we're doing this all for.
Good point.
Which does bring us back. So there are a few questions on here. I'm going to just quickly run through them. Hi, Ruth. This is from Louise. I have read The Turn of the Key. Great psychological drama. What gave you the idea for the story?
Well, it's a long answer, so I'll keep it quick. But the main one was reading lots of articles about digital abuse, where one partner sets up like a home hub or a security system, has all the passwords, they're the one who understands it, and their partner just goes along with it because it makes their life easier. And then when the relationship starts to break down, it becomes this kind of means of control. And unfortunately, it's becoming more and more of a thing, to the point where there's now guides on the internet for digitally detoxing your life when you break up with someone. And it kind of got me thinking about what a scary thing technology is and how that could be used in the wrong hands.
Jackie Mitchell asks, what's the most expensive item each of the panel own? Fess up. Oh, Alex, you go first on this one.
I don't know, because I think for most people it'd be a car, wouldn't it? But as I repeatedly said over and over again, I can't drive. So I think it's my MacBook Pro. I think that's the most expensive thing that I've got, apart from my $1,800 blouse, But enough about that.
Jane, will you confess what this is?
I think the most valuable thing I own is my engagement ring, which is very beautiful, but it was actually free to me because my mother-in-law gave it to me basically when we got engaged. So it belonged to her mother. Her mother's father was a jeweler, and he gave her a lot of diamonds, and so I got some for me. So it was a freebie, but it is worth quite a lot of money.
Don't shake hands with people at events from now.
Hey, we know who we're getting drunk at Harrogate, don't we?
I don't think I can get it off anymore. I think it's stuck on there for life. I think, yeah.
Ruth, what's yours?
Oh, well, if you discount car and house, which is kind of like obviously the most expensive thing I've bought is my house, but it's probably a ring. When I turned 40, I didn't have an engagement ring when I got married, because my husband and I were very hard up at the time. So I had a wedding ring, but no engagement ring. And I'd always said that when I had a bit of money, I would buy myself a nice ring. And I went to this really lovely place in London that just does antique jewellery, and bought this gorgeous Georgian diamond ring, which wasn't super expensive, but they didn't really have the technology to shape diamonds in those days, so you can see they've done it by hand, and it's all slightly kind of wonky, and like they've tried so hard. And I love the kind of the imperfection of it and the sort of slightly homemade look.
Oh. Steve, can you think of something?
No, my car's in HP, and I don't. There's a curse on the House of Cavanagh, the Halifax Building Society. So I don't own the house either. But I don't know. I think probably the computer. I have a little thing here. What do we see? It's like a mic. It's cost £400, and it's like a little mini Surface Go. That's more expensive than a laptop. That's probably the most expensive thing that I own, I think.
I have, I think it's the first edition of Stephen King's It, in hardback, and there's just so much to appeared.
I want to say it's my ring.
Oh.
There you go. Look at
There
that.
we go.
Lovely.
Hold on.
There we are. Brilliant. Thank you.
What is that?
I was in my computer.
Oh, great. Oh, he's so romantic, isn't he? It's so romantic. It's computer. It's my ring.
Thank you.
I just want to punch you in the head. No.
Is Steve the arsehole, everybody?
I am probably.
So yeah, I think as I was saying, I think it's the hardback. I've got the hardback, first edition Stephen King's It. I think that's worth. Last time I checked, it was over £300 on eBay, but I would never sell it because my computer's worth fucking nothing because it's shit, and I don't own a car. It's in my wife's name, and we don't own a house. We don't own this. That's literally it. Is a book. That is the most expensive thing in my house.
Oh, it's very
That's a good book, though.
That's the best answer.
But I think that'll do for now. So there's someone asked about what books are on Waterstones. If you search for Locked Up Festival and Waterstones, you'll see the page that they've got up on there, and you can go through all the books that are available. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming today and watching all the panels. And thank you to Alex, Jane, and Ruth for deciding who were arseholes and who weren't arseholes. Absolutely brilliant. We'll be back tomorrow at 2:30. With the debuts, the panel that is got Vaseem Khan, who's going to be talking to S.A. Cosby, Lloyd Otis, and Nadine Matheson. And then there's loads of other panels that I can't remember right now, but we'd like to thank everyone who's attended today. We hope to see it again tomorrow. We've raised almost £14,000 for the Trussell Trust with this festival, and we're so appreciative of it. And thank you so much for buying a ticket. Steve, final words?
Yes, come back tomorrow and it will be better tomorrow.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time. Thank you.